Oh, that's some good water. Speaking about some good water, in Arizona, water is a critical resource that we use every single day, whether you shower in it, you bathe in it, you drink it. My name is Joseph. I'm the chairman of the East Valley Young Republicans, and welcome to our Water Conservation Board debate. We have 8 candidates running for 5 seats to be on the CAP Board of Directors. The CAP is, you know what, instead of me telling you about CAP, why don't I let the candidates running for this office tell you what the primary role of CAP is. I'm very honored to have Dan Grimm, the Secretary of Maricopa County Republican Committee, here as our moderator. We're very honored to have him, and I want to say a special thank you to him for being our moderator, and a special thank you to the Arizona Free Enterprise Club for allowing us to record in their office, as well as Mesa Republican Women's Vice President Ashley Trussel for helping me get contact information for these candidates. It's very important that you're well educated in this. They're going to be at the very bottom of your ballot, but their position is just as important as any other position because they manage the taxing of water that we drink, use, bathe in, and we water our great gardens to grow food. So with that said, I want to hand this off to our great moderator, Dan Grimm. Thank you so much for joining us, and stay tuned for a great forum.
Welcome, everyone, to the East Valley Young Republican What Are We Talking About? Water Forum. We will introduce to you tonight questions from each of the 7 of the 8 candidates that have volunteered to be our subjects tonight in describing to you why they want you to vote for them for the upcoming election on the Central Arizona Project Water Board. Tonight's forum will be broken up into segments where each speaker will provide a brief introduction of themselves and why they chose to run. We then will answer 5 questions we will present and then provide closing statements. There are 7 candidates, and we will work through each one of the 7, beginning with our first candidate, Cory Mishkin. Cory, welcome. Glad to have you here tonight for all of our forum observers. Would you please share with us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, I'm Cory Mishkin, and I'm running for the Central Arizona Water Conservation District Board, colloquially known as the CAP Board. I want to let you know I'm excited to run for this race. I've been a long-time PC. I've been a district chair, a district treasurer, been involved in the grassroots of the Republican Party for a long time. And my family goes back for a while in Arizona. Growing up, we had a cotton farm and a cattle feedlot. We also were instrumental in developing some older golf courses here in town. And then my father took those groundwater rights and traded them for surface water rights. And we understand what it means to be smart with water. I think it's time that we have people on this board who have small businesses, know what it is to balance a budget, know what to do with those resources, make sure that they're not wasted. But more importantly, that we have people who will take back the conversation from the left on environmentalism. We're conservatives. It says it right there in our name that we conserve. We know how to do a lot with a little. We know how to take limited resources and make sure that we stretch and stretch and stretch those so we have more left over at the end than we started with. In fact, that's what makes us so successful in life. And that's what Arizona's been doing for years. Going back 70 years, we've started with water policy to make sure that we understood we lived in a desert and that we would have water going forward for generations to come. For those of you who don't know, most of our water, just like other places in this world, goes to agriculture. I don't want to say that to make sure that we're picking on the farmer. In fact, I want to make sure that we have food independence. Food independence is just as important as energy independence. It's just as important as any of the other topics that we talk about. But what are we doing for the next 50 years? The CAP was created for a moment like today. What are we doing to make sure that we preserve this area for our children and their children? I'm Cory Mishkin, and I'm running for the CAWCD.
Thank you, Cory. Now for our next candidate, let everyone have a chance to be introduced to Alan Delaney.
Hello, my name is Alan Delaney, and I am running for the Board of Directors of the Central Arizona Water Conservation District. Why? Well, the news is grim on the Colorado River system. We've reached a tipping point. The current mega drought has given us river flows far below those upon which the existing allocation is based. We could lose a lot of water. We could even lose the CAP system. Trained as a hydrogeologist, I received my master's degree at NAU. I was the water policy administrator for the city of Peoria for over a decade. I did a lot of things there, including getting us out of the Central Arizona Groundwater Replenishment District and building a much bigger assured water designation. I even got us power from Hoover Dam. And this cut the electrical bills at our newest wastewater treatment facility. During those years, I represented Peoria at the Central Arizona Water Conservation District, going to all the board meetings between 2007 and 2019 when I retired. Go in front of Salt River Project, Bureau of Reclamation, Department of Water Resources, and others. I also helped found the West Valley Water Association and represented Peoria at the Arizona Municipal Water Users Association. What do I offer? I offer education, a master's degree in hydrogeology from NAU. I offer experience, 30 years in the water world, 12 at the City of Peoria's Water Policy Administrator, and thus expertise. Maricopa County needs that expertise on the Board of Directors to get through the tough times ahead. My name is Alan Delaney, and I respectfully request your vote on November 8th. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alan. Our next candidate is Amanda Moniz. Amanda.
Hello, my name is Amanda Moniz, and I'm running for the Central Arizona Water Conservation District Board of Directors. I'm running for this position because I care deeply about the future of Arizona, and I care about protecting what we have in our state. For the last 10 years, I've worked as a conservative in education, and that's because I care deeply about my state. And that directly translates to the conservation of our water in Arizona and protecting it for our future. In my current position, I work in administration and I work with policy. I have to stay within the confines of legislation and within our Arizona Constitution. So I know serving on this board, I can do that just as well. It'll translate directly over to having to protect you as the taxpayer and making sure that we write policies that benefit you and our customers through the CAP system.
Thank you, Amanda. That was a wonderful introduction. Let us now turn to our next candidate, Donovan Neese.
I'm running for the CAP Board, also known as the Central Arizona Water Conservation District Board of Directors. You're going to have to scroll down all the way to the bottom of your ballot, and this will be down past the judges. And you're going to want to vote for somebody who knows how to represent the taxpayers of Maricopa County. Somebody who has the technical expertise to be able to represent you well and understand how water works through Arizona. And I'll just tell you, I'm that guy. I've been working in the water industry for 20 years now. I'm an engineer. I am running a water district now, and all the guys who run water in the state, I know most of them. Most of the agricultural centers in Arizona, I know most of those guys too. So if you're running water, we run in the same circles. And you need somebody who knows how to run water and decipher technical information so that good decision and policy can be made at the CAP board. Most of my day in my job is filled with water and power issues. And the CAP is all about water and power. They're one of the biggest power users in the state. That representation is so important, and unfortunately it doesn't get a lot of publicity. So I really appreciate you guys inviting me to this discussion today so that we can have honest conversations today about how water works in Arizona.
Thank you, Donovan. That was a wonderful introduction. Let us now turn to our fourth candidate, Dr. Jason Lundgren.
My name is Jason Lundgren, and I'm running for the CAP Water Board. The reason why I'm running is I believe there needs to be a more conservative financial trend in what the board has been doing the last few years. I believe there's a trend towards socializing the spending of the money and the way that the CAP is funded, and I feel the water use has to be more of a fee for service where water users in the county need to be the amount of water they use needs to be directly related to what they pay. The other reason I'm running for the board is that I believe there needs to be an absence of a conflict of interest with people who are on the board. I see that a lot of the current board members and people that are running for the board are involved in real estate. They are land developers. They are directly financially tied to decisions, or that there's a possible conflict in the decisions that they are going to be making. I feel that may be inappropriate, and so I feel that people on the board need to be people that are just regular citizens, that have a good financial sense, that are possibly business owners, that can run a business and not be, again, financially influenced in any decisions that they might make.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lundgren. Our next candidate is Barbara Seago.
Hi, my name is Barbara Seago, and I'm running for the CAP Water Board. I was born and raised in Missouri. I have an electrical engineering degree from University of Missouri-Rolla, but it never quite stuck with me, and I started at my first job at McDonnell Douglas back in St. Louis as a software engineer, and so I've done a lot of programming, so that's where I am right now. I'm a software programmer, software developer. I moved to Arizona in 2005 to Gilbert and lived here with my 3 sons for that time. I am now a grandmother as well, of 5. And I, after 2020, the election kind of woke me up, as it did a lot of people, and I realized I need to get involved. I need to do something. So I didn't know what that was, and I was listening to someone on the radio, and they were saying, oh, you should become a PC, precinct committeeman. So, okay, I'll do that. So I looked it up and found out my district and, figured out how to go. And so I started going to meetings and became a PC appointed. And then, of course, I got elected this past primary to my position. So back in May, probably May, at one of our meetings, someone currently on the CAP Water Board said that we needed people to run. So I kind of hemmed and hawed for a couple weeks, and I was like, I don't know, do I want to do this? And I finally decided, yeah, if I don't, who's going to? Who's going to step up? So I decided that I would go ahead and run. So here I am.
Barbara, thank you for that wonderful introduction. Having completed our introductions, let us now begin the question phase of our forum. Our first question is, what is the primary role of the CAP Board of Directors?
So on the question of what is the CAP Board, big long answer I could give here, but at the root of it, it's a taxing district. It's actually the second largest form of representative government in the state of Arizona behind the legislature, and it's no taxation without representation. This is a board that oversees anywhere from 8 to 12 cents of your property tax dollars to make sure that water is delivered to your home and or your business efficiently and effectively. We need people on this board who understand how to balance a budget, who understand to work within the confines of what their job is. But beyond the primary job of this board, I think it's important we have people who are willing to sit on this board and use it to go after the hypocrisy of places like California that expect us to take a 21% cut while they do nothing to conserve water, while they go no further than lip service and telling people to turn off the water on their grass on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. We need strong conservatives who will take the fight and protect our water and protect our tax base.
What does the Board of Directors at the Central Arizona Water Conservation District do? Well, they oversee the operation of the CAP, or Central Arizona Project Canal, and all of its infrastructure, which is considerable. They hire and fire upper management. So that is a very important thing, since the general manager actually does the day-to-day operations. And they are responsible for paying the debt on the construction loan that still hangs over our heads to the tune of $55 million each year. They got to come up with the money for that every year. We pay that until 2045. They also formulate a strategic vision for the operation of the Central Arizona Project, and for that they write a strategic plan. So those are their major duties, and those are important.
The primary purpose of the CAP Board is to represent the taxpayers of Maricopa County. I say that knowing that it is a huge responsibility to represent an entire group of people. And when it comes to our money, I don't know about you, but I'm very stingy with that. And so we need somebody who knows what things should be spent on and what things shouldn't. And that is the primary purpose of political office. Somebody who represents a large contingency of folks. And I know that's a huge responsibility. When I sit on that board, I'll be representing you. And they have a lot of important decisions to make, especially with the river going down like it has, Lake Mead going dry. There's a lot of big decisions to be made, and especially now that the general manager is going to be retiring. There's a lot of important things that need to be figured out in a very short period of time.
The purpose of the CAP Water Board, I mean, it was originally created because they had to pay off the debt for building the canal. And so they needed to tax people. They needed to tax people in Maricopa County and the other counties that are benefiting from the canal in order to pay back the debt. So when you create a board, a body that taxes people, they have to be elected representatives. So that's why they're elected representatives. So the board mainly deals with taxes, what to do with them, how much to charge, who gets the money, and then the rates, the water rates. They don't really deal with water policy, and they don't deal with the hydrology of how the water goes or anything. You don't have to be an expert, but that's what they do.
The CAWCD Board Director's most important position is not only delivery of water through the canal system, but mainly its main responsibility is to levy taxes and set rates for our water delivery. This is extremely important because the reason why this position was even created in the first place was to have taxpayers represented by the taxpayer. Some of the people on the board don't necessarily see it that way and see it as a place to create policy instead of setting rates that benefit all of our customers and our taxpayers. And so one of the other duties that it also involves is also upholding our contracts and our obligations. Some of our financial obligations include repaying the federal government for our canal system, and those rates and those taxes help to contribute to that repayment system. It also needs to work within the confines of policies, legislative statutes, as well as our Arizona Constitution. So we have to stand and do that and make sure that we have economic policies that reflect the taxpayer.
The primary job of the board is financial oversight for the money that comes into the CAP water system, and to make sure that money is spent appropriately and to the benefit of all citizens of Maricopa County and each individual county that, as far as where you're elected from. There is an effort to have the monies that are coming into the board be pushed out to municipalities and have it be where, say, a taxpayer in Chandler, they put their money into CAP board each year as far as through their property taxes, but then when the city of Buckeye or the city of Scottsdale wants money from the CAP system, if the CAP board designates that money to go back into that municipality, that does nothing for the taxpayer down here in Chandler who has put that money in. So I'm for the municipalities charging for water what the water costs them and not being subsidized by the CAP system.
So on the question of what is the CAP board, big long answer I could give here, but at the root of it, it's a taxing district. It's actually the second largest form of representative government in the state of Arizona behind the legislature, and it's no taxation without representation. This is a board that oversees anywhere from 8 to 12 cents of your property tax dollars to make sure that water is delivered to your home and to your business efficiently and effectively. We need people on this board who understand how to balance a budget, who understand to work within the confines of what their job is. But beyond the primary job of this board, I think it's important we have people who are willing to sit on this board and use it to go after the hypocrisy of places like California that expect us to take a 21% cut while they do nothing to conserve water, while they go no further than lip service and telling people to turn off the water on their grass on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. We need strong conservatives who will take the fight and protect our water and protect our tax base.
Now, for question number 2. Even though the role is nonpartisan, as a Republican, How will the platform of limited government influence your actions and votes on the CAP board?
As a Republican and just a conservatively minded individual, my belief is that the water that we use all should be paid for based upon utilization. The current structure of the way CAP is funded, a lot of the revenue comes from property taxes. So if you live in a very large home, you're going to be paying substantially more for water, whether you use it or not, than if you live in a smaller home. And I feel like it needs to be based more so again upon utilization. Whatever you use that month is what you should be what you should be charged for.
Great question. I am running on it with another slate of other folks who are all Republicans. The Arizona Central the other day gave us a hard time because, hey, that guy's a Republican. Well, sorry, I've been a Republican my whole life, and it is important that we understand the role that CAP plays in the future of Arizona. And they have done a great job of storing and conserving our water for future generations, and they need to continue to do that. But they need to do that with fiscal responsibility in mind. They have obligations, they have contracts, all of those need to be fulfilled. And I'm going to come at those positions all from a conservative worldview as we make those decisions on the board.
So if I'm on the water board, the Republican platform is limited government, of course. And so I believe in low taxes, less regulation, as little as possible. Keep the government out of our lives as much as possible. This board, they like to tax us the maximum they're allowed to tax. They're only allowed to tax us a certain amount, but they always tax the maximum, which, you know, a couple of people on the board are trying to lower the taxes, but there are not enough people on the board to do that. So that would be my main focus is, of course, making sure the taxes you don't just tax us the maximum because you can. You know, people need their money right now, so we need to lower that as much as possible. And then, of course, making sure that the money is going places where it should go. You know, it should be going to maintain the canal, to pay off the debt, and to do water conservation efforts. Like when we're in droughts like we are right now, we need to conserve water. So those should be the things we're spending money on. We shouldn't be giving subsidies to municipalities or developers. That's just not a good tax policy. That's not a good way to do things, because then this city benefits, or these developers benefit, but it doesn't benefit everyone in the county, which everyone in the county is paying for it, so it should benefit everyone in the county.
So even though this is a nonpartisan race, the reality is in life today, everything has a partisan bent. No matter what we do, there's always going to be a leaning one way or the other. I tend to lean conservative. I'm a conservative Republican, been one my whole life. In fact, I've worked on campaigns ever since I was a little kid. The reality is we need people on this board who understand that the job of public servants, the job of elected officials is to oversee and be a check on government, to ensure that the bureaucracy isn't expanding to support the bureaucracy, to make sure that we have people there who want to do what's right for the constituency, not what's right for the board or for the people who work at the board. It's our job as conservatives to be that check on power and to make sure that we're living within whatever our public charter is for the organization, and that we're making sure that every tax dollar that's spent from this district goes towards maintaining the infrastructure and delivering water to our people at as cost-effective a rate as possible. That's the job of the CAP, that's the job of those who are on the board, and that's what I'm going to do when elected.
Even though the board, which consists of 15 members from the 3 counties that CAP serves, is supposedly nonpartisan, everyone in Arizona knows that in an era of polarization, there's a partisan element involved. The point here of being on that board is to rise above partisanship, to affirm Republican principles of limited government, and to elicit the cooperation of all of the parties to solve Arizona's water problems. This will not be easy. It will require diplomatic skills. It will require It will require no votes when people overstep their bounds and attempt to impose upon the customers their own ideas of what water restrictions should look like. So I would say that voting no on anything too egregious is one way to oppose that. I would say that cooperating with other people to achieve a conciliated and cooperative agreement is another way to approach that. And that is what I will do once I'm elected to the board of directors.
Seeing that the CAP board is nonpartisan, I'm running as an unapologetic conservative. It's important to know where people stand because we know that different parties have different policies and different backgrounds, as well as different agendas that they want to uphold in their positions. And although I know that water knows no bounds, no party, it's important to know that I'm coming from a place in which I want to be fiscally responsible, as well as create policies and help maintain those policies that are economically responsible and environmentally feasible. It's important that we protect what we have in Arizona. We've done a phenomenal job of taking care of our water and conserving it for the future. But also there's some people that want to get onto the board or maybe sit on the board currently that want to abuse that, and they want to abuse what their position is and the votes that they have. We've seen this happen in other states. We've seen it amongst the other basin states that we share our allocations with. And so it's important to know who has what background and what values they have. As a conservative, I'm running with 3 other conservatives on a slate because we want you to know what our values are coming into this position. We don't want to have any surprises, so you know what you're going to be voting for in November, as well as what votes you'll have and how you'll be represented on the board. We only want to set rates that are responsible for water management, as well as for you as a consumer and a person within Maricopa County, as well as to service our other customers where we have obligations to our farmers and to an industry within our state. And this also includes the responsible growth of our state. We've seen that in Maricopa County, this has grown substantially overnight, and a lot of that has to do with some factors and things regarding how water is allocated, as well as how cities have taken advantage of how the board votes in their favor. You may not know, but property taxes have been subsidized for the cost of water, and this is something as a conservative I do not appreciate.
And now for question number 3. Do you have any financially driven influences that could affect your votes? And if so, what are they? And how would they affect your vote?
Our whole slate of people running, we've pledged to only represent the taxpayer, and that includes taking money from any groups that could bias, influence our decisions. So I don't have anyone that's donated any money. I work for Boeing. We don't have anything to do with water. You know, I live in Gilbert, but I'm not going to give them a benefit just because I live there. So I don't feel I have any conflict of interest with this position.
Of course, I absolutely have that. I live here just like you do. It's important that we are all protecting what we have and can use into the future. We need to protect our natural resources. We need to protect our tax dollars. We need to protect our wallets. All of that motivates decisions that I'm going to make. I think the question really is asking me, am I getting support from folks who would affect my decisions on the CAP board? And yes, I'm getting support from family and friends. Now, because I work in the water industry, a lot of my support is coming from those water people. So yeah, that support is coming from a good place. People who know how water works in Arizona, people who understand what we need to do as we go into the future with CAP.
As a candidate running for this very important position, I have absolutely no financial obligations to any outside influences or groups. As a candidate, I've been funding my campaign with myself, my friends and family, and small groups that have added money to help me buy signs and get from place to place to share my voice, because that is the most important thing for me, is to get to know all of you. As an individual, I have pounded in 100 signs myself. I've gone out there with the rebar and I've gone out with my street signs to do that work because it's important that I satisfy that role to the fullest. That includes my campaigning. And when meeting people, wherever I go, whether it's a Republican meeting or out on the street, knocking doors, whatever it may be, that's where my purpose needs to be. It's not financially backed by anybody who's going to influence my vote in the future or something I'm going to owe to in the future. I don't want to have any ties, so I can vote strictly because of the taxpayer, for the taxpayer, for policies and rates that are going to benefit us all now and for the future, because it's important that we have somebody who's responsible and is held to account by the taxpayers only, because that's what this job is meant to do.
So the question is, do I have any financial interests that may affect how I vote here? Plain and simple, no. I'm a real estate agent. I get to help people find their own homes, sell their homes. That's my job. I don't have any interest in big time development in Arizona or any kind of interest in a water district or any kind of interest in something that's going to require me to think of others' interests. In my own personal business, my tagline and my trademark is your best interest always. That's how I'm going to approach my job on the CAP, is to make sure that I'm protecting the interest of the individual, of the taxpayer, and that I'm doing what's right for Arizonans to ensure that we have water, not just today, but in the future, and to make sure that others, like California, are cinching up their belt when times are tough, just like we are. We need people who are going to fight that fight. And that's my only goal here, is to make sure that this valley has the same resources that we're entitled to and that we've had in the past.
I do not have any financial incentives regarding the CAP Water Board whatsoever. My day job is as a chiropractor, and so there's no crossover between any kind of decision I would make or any kind of policy that the CAP would be deciding upon and my day job. That is not the current situation that what I see in the board right now. You'll see many people that are involved in many different facets of water utilization and delivery and land development, and I don't believe that's the way it should be.
So I am retired. 30 years in the water world was a lot of experience, but I have no financial conflict of interest. I also have plenty of time to deal with the matters before the board of directors. One thing most people don't know is that the board of directors for the CAWCD is also the board of directors for the Central Arizona Groundwater Replenishment District, a separate district that replenishes water for subdivisions and master plan communities. Now, inherent in that role is a conflict of interest with the role that the board members must serve overseeing the Central Arizona Project Canal and how it operates. This is something that's going to be difficult to overcome, but it faces all board members, no matter what their party affiliation, no matter what their background. This financial conflict of interest must be resolved by the board by separating out the two and only voting in favor of those things that will benefit the Central Arizona Project first and the Central Arizona Groundwater Replenishment District second.
And our fourth question for tonight's forum is, keeping in mind the CAP Board of Directors does not write water policy, what do you hope to accomplish during your tenure on the board?
While I represent you on the CAP board, I hope to guide us through all of the crises that we're in right now. And I don't say that to freak anybody out. I say that because we are in crisis right now. We've had a 20-year drought. It's important that we have people who know how water works in Arizona and are leading us through that process. And that's why I'm really running for CAP board. I couldn't not run for CAP board. I've been working in water for 20 years now, and we have got this 20-year drought. We have got the general manager retiring. We have obligations that need to be met, and that's why I wanted to represent you on the CAP board. I am hoping to help guide through policies at CAP to give direction and leadership at CAP so that they can navigate their way through the troubled waters that are coming our way, which hopefully we will get some water coming our way. I've got experience in complex contract litigation. I've got experience balancing budgets. I've got experience setting rates. I will be able to provide that leadership that CAP needs.
Although the CAP board is not responsible for writing water policy, it is important to understand what those policies are, what makes them up. In my day job, in my everyday life as working in administration and education, my whole profession is predicated on making sure I stay within the boundaries of policy, within our statutes and within our Constitution. And so understanding that is important. I will make sure that I am well versed in anything that crosses my desk, so I make an informed vote that protects the taxpayer. Some of the other things that are important for this position is also making sure that we satisfy all of our financial obligations, including anything that's coming up with our economic challenges, including our decreased revenue, which requires us to make sure that we can also maintain our CAP system. Because although we do have abundance of water and we're getting cuts from the Colorado River, we have to maintain the system to provide water to all of our users and to us here in Maricopa County, where it's extremely valuable for us to survive in our state, as well as to maintain what our state culture and climate is like.
While the CAP doesn't write water policy, it has a huge role to play in this whole conversation. It's one of the most important seats at the table for all of Arizonans. CAP touches over 80% of our population and delivers water to farmers, homeowners, cities, to individual water districts. It delivers water to industry. And like I said, over 80% of us depend on that water for our daily lives. It's important that whoever we have on this board is willing to use it as a soapbox to have those hard conversations and make sure that we're holding our legislature accountable, our congressional delegation accountable, and those leaders around the state, that we empower them to go take the fight to where they need to make sure that we're protecting Arizona's water rights and that we're delivering as much water as is possible from the Central Arizona Project and the Colorado River. Even in a time of decline, we need people who are going to stand up and say, that's our water and we're going to fight for it. And that's what I believe I will do on that board.
What do I hope to accomplish on this board? I know, like I said before, my main goal would be to make sure the tax dollars are being spent wisely and for what they're supposed to be spent on. And also to make sure that if we don't need the money, we don't have a specific reason for it, we shouldn't be taxing. We should lower the tax. There should be specific reasons that we need that tax dollars. We shouldn't just say, oh, because we can tax, we're going to tax. That's not the way to do it. So we should just lower it if we don't need it. So that's going to be my focus. And of course, I want to look at water conservation, because there are probably things that we can do to maybe, figure out better ways to do things that we can conserve water. I know they've talked about rain harvesting. I've looked at other things too for water conservation. And it'd be nice to, maybe do some studies, investigate, see if there's some of them that are feasible that we could do those kinds of things as well to help us during this drought.
All right. The Central Arizona Water Conservation District has a board of directors, and it also has in its name the word conservation. Yet, the CAWCD, or Central Arizona Water Conservation District, is not a leader in Maricopa, Pima, or Pinal counties when it comes to conservation. We are far outdone by the likes of Salt River Project, Bureau of Reclamation, and the various cities. So one of the things that has to be done by that board and accomplished is to speed up the word about conservation. We are entering a time of tight water, and only conservation will help us survive this. So that is one of the major things that I will be interested in, is promoting conservation through the Central Arizona Water Conservation District, which has it in its name. The other thing I would be interested in accomplishing is to promote cooperation and conciliation amongst the various parties. Everybody's going to have to give up something, but no one should have to give it up unwillingly. So we need to approach each and every problem that involves giving up water in a spirit of conciliation and participation.
What I hope to accomplish while I'm on the board is, number one, having conservative financial oversight for the way that the money is spent in the cap water system. Two, I want to have some outreach as far as in my circle to try and encourage conservative water use practices. I think we all in Arizona want to use less water and want to be more efficient with our water. We already do a really good job of recharging water, and I think we can all try and strive to get better with that, because we don't know what's going to happen in the future. Hopefully the cap water system in the Colorado, they start to trend upward again, where the current drought situation turns around and goes back the other direction. But if it does not, we need to kind of get ever better with it, so we can utilize the water that we do have more efficiently.
And our final question for this evening is, what role do you envision yourself taking in the form of CAP outreach and education?
Outreach by the board is extremely important to make sure there is transparency, as well as that voters are well informed of what is going on with something that affects their everyday lives and their future. And outreach should not only be going out to different legislative meetings as well as different groups that organize in order to share information, but outreach should also involve teaching our children how to be good stewards of our land and how to protect this precious resource that we've done so well in our state, to make sure that our future also has that around for them. So communication will be key in this role to provide that outreach, as well as I've attended the CAP University, and although I learned an abundance of information, I would love to be a part of that committee to help share more information with the voter out there, even non-voter, children of all ages, people of all faiths, to understand that this is a really important thing to know about and how it operates, so that they can make informed decisions for themselves and be a good steward of our land and of Arizona.
My role in the CAP Water Board in regard to outreach and education, what I hope to encourage is further pushing the efficiency of the farmers, so they can be focusing less on flood irrigation, using the drip tape, using the technologies that are going to help us use less water so they can continue to grow the food that we all eat. The other thing I will encourage just in my circle of influence is just doing things at our homes, doing things like having water catchment systems, or using things for like your own garden at your house, where you can utilize some of the water that we all kind of take for granted that comes down, even though infrequently here in Arizona, but just using those things in our own homes that may help to alleviate the burden being put on the municipal water systems.
So for outreach and education, I think I would probably start going to more LD meetings in different areas. You know, I'm LD 14 right now, but I've been going to a lot of the meetings with, you know, just campaigning, meeting a lot of people at these other LDs, and I would probably want to go there and tell them what's going on, keep people informed about what's going on with the water board, because I didn't know anything about it. And when I first heard about it, I didn't even know I had voted for it. I probably did vote for somebody, but I didn't remember. So I think it just, we need to get out and talk to our neighbors, you know, go places and meet people. Once you're on the board, you're actually an elected official, so you should start going to different rallies, different meetings, you know, and just tell people what's going on so that people are more aware, so that the next election, hopefully people know what it is.
I look forward to representing all of the taxpayers of Maricopa County. I've taken so many questions already from people just like you, who say, hey Donovan, what matters in water in Arizona? And who should I be voting for? And how does this work? And where does my water come from? And I want to continue to do that for you. And I have been available for all of those questions, and I will continue to be available for all of those questions. CAP does a great job of educating the public as to what is their role, what do they do, how does that affect you? And the reality is they bring all that water down from the Colorado River, and they take Arizona's allocation and they distribute it to all the contractors off of the CAP canal. And they distribute that water to the cities, they distribute that water to farms, and it is very important that they continue to do that. And you guys need to understand how that works. And so I want to be available for you to help you through that process. And I will continue to be available for that and to support CAP's efforts with their CAP University and the other efforts that they do. I already do teach a class on water management now, and I'm planning to continue to do that as part of my role with the Agribusiness and Water Council.
So the question is, what role does the CAP have in outreach? This is an important role. A lot of times our elected officials, after they've won an election, they kind of disappear until the next election. My promise to all Arizonans, Republican, Democrat, Independent, even those who aren't registered to vote, I will show up and still answer those questions. I'll come to your LD. I'll come to your club meetings. I want to make sure that Arizonans know we have really good water policy. It's our job to continually innovate, to continue to figure out ways to stretch that drop of water as far as possible. But the reality is, there's a lot of really smart people who have been planning for a day, not a rainy day, but a dry day like today. And we need to go out and let everyday Arizonans know and take away the fear that is being presented to us in the media, on newspaper pages, in radio, on television. We need to take that fear away and let them know that we have really good water policy. Their taps aren't running dry, but it's lean times, and we need to do everything we can to conserve and stretch every drop of water. That's also the job of the board, to show up, be accountable, and answer those hard questions for our constituents. And I plan on doing that every single month while I'm on this board.
Outreach is perhaps one of the most important things that board members can do for the Central Arizona Project System. By going out and speaking to various forums, by going out and presenting the information in a timely manner, and doing it frequently. The information about our water situation can be made public, our actions can become transparent, and this is something that we really wish to accomplish. I'm retired. I have the time to do this. And I can borrow a PowerPoint presentation from anybody and present it. I think that outreach is perhaps one of the most important duties that individual board members can do. And we should all do it. Thank you.
Leading off for our closing statements will be Barbara Seago.
So I want you to vote for me in November, and I want you to know that as an electrical engineering, with I having that degree, I feel like I have enough education, enough having to figure things out every day in my job. I have to analyze data, I have to figure things out, you know, it's part of my daily job. So I think that I could, whatever the water issues are, whatever the tax issues are, I think I have the ability to figure that out. I've also worked on my HOA board. I've been on my HOA board 5 or 6 years, and I've had to deal with, you know, working with community dollars. You know, what's best to spend the money on, what should we hold off on, you know, those kinds of things, and how much should we raise, if we should raise. And I know during the 2008 crisis, financial crisis, I was the president of that board. And the budget meetings, I was always like, well, going in, we're not going to raise any dues right now. We can't do that right now. People can't afford it right now. You just can't do it. You know, I mean, we were having people foreclosing all the time. So I really want to stress that we need people to balance out the rest of the board, who are all, you know, big tax spender kind of people. I want to balance it out. Put some real, just regular people on this board that aren't biased by developers or municipalities, just regular taxpayers who can represent you honestly and faithfully, and not make decisions based on some other group, because that's just not right. So thank you. My name is Barbara Seago, and I would like your vote November 8th. Thank you.
And our next candidate to offer his closing statement will be Dr. Jason Lundgren.
My name is Jason Lundgren, and I am running for the CAP Water Board. I am not a politician. I am a local Chandler City, let me back up. I'm a Chandler business owner. I have no desire for any kind of political goal or anything post the water board. I am not a land developer or a real estate investor or anything in that realm of business. I'm going to make decisions based upon what is best for all the taxpayers of the county of Maricopa, and that is it.
And the next closing statement will be from candidate Donovan Neese.
Thank you for your time today. I look forward to representing all the taxpayers of Maricopa County at the CAP Board. My experience in the water industry and my experience with setting rates, my experience dealing with boards, my experience in litigation, my experience in negotiation is going to help us move through these crises as we venture into the future with CAP. This position is a 6-year responsibility, and I'm committed to fulfilling my obligations to you and to the CAP should you all decide to vote for me on November 8th. I think it's incredibly important that we understand where our water comes from. You know, as people who live in the desert, we all know that water is really important and is the lifeblood of the economic community in our state. And that supports industry, that supports housing, residential growth, that supports our farms, all of it incredibly important to who we are as a state. I look forward to representing you at the CAP Board. Should you decide that you want to get all the way down to the bottom and check yes next to Neese, I would very much appreciate that and would consider it an honor and a privilege to represent you on the Central Arizona Water Conservation District Board of Directors. Thank you.
Thank you, Donovan. And our next candidate to offer their closing statement will be Amanda Moniz.
Hello, again, my name is Amanda Moniz, and I'm running for the Central Arizona Water Conservation District Board of Directors. As a conservative and a native Arizonan, I care deeply about protecting our future in Arizona, and I want to work for all the taxpayers in the state to make sure that we maintain our precious resource and make sure that we have a future here in the state of Arizona. And me and my slate, we've been running a campaign to just work for you. This position was first and foremost created for the taxpayers and to represent them as such. And I want to work to conserve our farms, because without our local agriculture, we may be lost. If we don't have a local food source, I don't know where our food source will come from. And we need to protect them, and we need to do things that will also preserve that for our future in our state. We also need to work for responsible management of growth, because the overgrowth that we have right now is not manageable. And we have some people also trying to influence our water policy, in which some developers may not need to make sure that they have a 100-year water source, and that's a concern to me. I'm beholden to nobody other than myself and to you, and I want to serve the board as such, so I'm hoping that I have your vote in November so that I can represent you and all the taxpayers of Maricopa County. Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. And our next candidate to offer their closing statement is Alan Delaney.
My name again, Alan Delaney. I'm running for the Board of Directors for the Central Arizona Water Conservation District. What I bring to the table is experience of 30 years, with the last 12 of which were with the City of Peoria as the Water Policy Administrator. I also bring education as a hydrogeologist, got my Master of Science degree at NAU up in Flagstaff, and I also bring the amount of expertise that I could learn in 12 years concerning water resources policy. I present myself as an expert on the subject. I present myself as someone who can help Maricopa County in particular get through the really tough times that are upon us now. So I, again, am Alan Delaney, and I respectfully request your vote on November 8th. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alan. And our final candidate to offer their closing statement tonight is Cory Mishkin.
Again, I'm Cory Mishkin, and I'm running for the CAWCD, also known as the CAP Board. It's alphabet soup, I get that. And we're on the back of your ballot. There's 14 people running for 5 seats. I'm asking for one of your votes, because it's so important that we have people on this board who understand what it is to run a business, balance a checkbook, make sure that they meet payroll, but also people who are willing to take the fight beyond just the boardroom of the CAP, but out into Arizona and make sure that our politicians are held accountable for water decisions, for water policy. that our governor has the tools that they need to be able to go to California and fight with the Bureau of Reclamation to make sure that Arizona doesn't continually take it on the chin like we've done in the last drought contingency plan. We need to make sure that we have fighters who are willing to go to the ends of the country to fight for our water. Water isn't a passing issue. It's life and death. Without it, there's no reason to live in this valley. People have been living here for thousands of years because of our water, because of water policy, because of smart decisions. I want to help make those smart decisions, and I want to make sure that we're not just planning and we're not myopic about today's problem, that we're focused on the next 50 years, the next 100 years. What are we doing to ensure that our children and their children can continue to live here? That if my kids want to have a farm, they can do that. If they want to be in industry, they can do that. And they can do that here in Arizona and in Maricopa County. There's 5 seats. I ask for one of your votes. I'm Cory Mishkin, candidate for the CAP Board, also known as the Central Arizona Water Conservation District. The only Cory on your entire ballot. Please remember me. Thank you.
Wasn't that a great forum, Dan?
That was outstanding. It's so wonderful to have good candidates to choose from in an election.
Absolutely. Good candidates, but good candidates are followed by hard choices. You have many hard choices, and as you make it down your ballot, we hope that you treat this like a marathon. We want you to keep in mind the rising gas prices that you've been seeing, the hits that you've been getting in because of your wallet, and the different things that are affecting your family, like our wide open border, fentanyl pills that are coming in droves and affecting your children. We want you to keep that in mind while you run your marathon down to the bottom of your ballot, where you'll find not just water board candidates, but also proposed propositions and ballots. We want to encourage you to go to the Arizona Free Enterprise website, where they have ballot measures listed in English and Spanish. We also want to give a special thank you to the Arizona Free Enterprise Club for allowing us to use their beautiful office space for our video, as well as Rhonda Smith, our amazing camerawoman. And a very warm special thank you to Dan Grimm for being our moderator for Maricopa County Republican Committee to talk to us to see what are we talking about. So Dan, do you have any closing statements to follow?
This is Arizona. It's a desert. Water is one of our #1 issues. So as you go down to the bottom of that ballot and you see those 8 candidates, remember what you heard today and choose wisely.
And that is a huge encouragement to get involved. We want you to join the East Valley Young Republicans. You can find a membership form on any of our social medias, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, East Valley YRs. And thank you so much for joining us for this fantastic forum. And thank you, Dan, for this amazing